at the same time.
Yeah, I really enjoy riding the bus. I've lived up Castle Creek the past 3 years and don't have that luxury. So I'm happy to be able to commute this winter.
Good. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, well, happy to hear what's going on.
Great.
Hi, Mr. Wells. How are you this evening?
Hi, Joe.
I'm unmuted now.
Perfect. Hello.
Good. Glad you could make it.
Well, I can't stay the duration because my son arrives at about 6:45.
Yeah. Well, at least you have one child coming home.
Yes, one.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see, Joe, if it may be a short meeting, so you may be here for the duration.
the good thing. The good thing is that we've gotten a lot of comments, not a lot, but comments, in writing so far. That Joe, I think you spurred that with people with your review of the 2015 information. So it's not like we don't have input, but there was also some confusion. Glenn Horn thought that the meeting was an either or, like come to the meeting tonight or come to the meeting on December 9th, rather than a sequential kind of thing where we're building on people's input. But maybe other people felt the same way. I'm not sure. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, to be honest, I only knew about tonight because of the thing that was in the paper. So
But we had,
I obviously missed something somewhere along the way.
yeah, Al, didn't we send that out to the caucus group I think we sent it out. We sent out that same notice that we had in the paper to as many emails as we had. And Joe, I think,
Yeah, but in Joe's, we sent out so many, so many emails and communications that Joe probably was inundated and didn't see all of them.
they started ignoring us. Yeah.
Well, I spend most of my day just trying to get subs to show up and work on my house. So
No,
Yeah, it's a different game now. Oh, terrible.
well, it is. I guess we'll
Why
give
don't
it
we Okay, why don't we give it 2 more minutes and then we'll see. I mean, people do show up late in Aspen, but let's see.
or this could be our smallest attendance yet.
It could be. I'm surprised that I'm surprised that some others are not joining, but that's okay.
Yeah, and if need be, well, this is a good indicator that maybe we'll need to.
Oh, Kim's here. She just has her screen off. And Elizabeth, I'm not sure which Elizabeth that is, but Elizabeth's here. So we've got a couple more people that are showing up on our screens. So that's good.
Hi, Cindy. Hi, Ellen. Hi, Joe. It's Elizabeth Boyles.
Oh, hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you. And glad that you made it.
And do you have kids? Are your kids living here permanently? Or
Morgan is the manager of the Braun Hut system. And Weston has an organization called Rios to Rivers, and he just went to COP26.
Wow, that's great. Good child rearing there, Elizabeth.
My not-for-profit boys.
I know, but what great missions they have.
Well, yeah, they do love the outdoors.
That's Aspen kids.
Yeah. Well, it is. Should we I guess we can get started and bring people along as they. Cindy, do you think just go ahead?
Well, I don't,
It's crazy with just, what do we have, a handful?
I know. Well, there's 7 of us, so that's great. Maybe we should get started, and so we don't waste everybody's time who at least got here when we asked. So maybe we'll start and then we can build from there. And you guys, tonight it's going to be very informal, so feel free to jump in. We've made all of you panelists, so feel free to jump in, and if you have any questions as we're moving along.
So, yeah, so thanks. I know everybody except for Olivia, and I feel like I know her now. But I'm Ellen Sassano. I'm the Long Range Planner for Picken County. Cindy Hubin, joining in this presentation, is the Community Development Director for Picken County. And then Bonnie Shiles is our Senior Permit Tech, and she's running the tech side of this presentation. So yeah, if anyone has issues with participating, let us know, and she'll help hopefully walk us through whatever the issue is. So yeah, so we are updating both the East of Aspen Independence Pass Master Plan and the Castle Creek Master Plan. And this is actually our 3rd public meeting. We had one in August and one in September as well. And Cindy's going to cover our agenda. Before we jump into that, I do appreciate everybody's time. Super busy time of year, and everybody's just busy in general. So thanks for joining us, and we really welcome your input and working with you moving forward. So Cindy's going to jump into the agenda, and then I'll follow up with some details. I think, Cindy just, I think Cindy just went away. So let's see if she's coming back or not. So I can run through the agenda. Introductions. I think, is she really gone? Cindy really gone? She is really gone. Okay. So I've introduced myself and Cindy and Bonnie. Joe, do you want to just jump in, quick introduction, and then Olivia, and then Elizabeth, just who you are, and whatever you'd like to share.
Joe Wells, coordinator of the Castle Creek Caucus. I think that's all you need for now, isn't it?
Yeah, great, thanks. Olivia, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, hi. Olivia Niosi. You're here because Trevor Washko is having trouble with technology. But I've lived up at the Caddo Center for the past 2.5 years. Yeah, just trying to listen to Castle Creek News.
Great, thanks. And then Elizabeth?
I'm Elizabeth Boyles, and my husband Edgar and I have lived in the East of Aspen caucus area for about 40 years now. And so I guess I'm the representative at the moment for our caucus.
Great, thanks. I'm so glad you're here, and you've been participating off and on for a while now, so much appreciated. So what we're going to cover tonight is a quick overview of process for review and adoption of the master plan updates, just so that people know what we're doing moving forward in terms of what it takes to get a plan update adopted. And I'll talk a little bit about why we're reviewing the Castle Creek and East of Aspen master plans concurrently. And then really want to make sure that everyone knows how to participate in the process. Public input is just critical to these efforts. And then walk through some of the recommended updates to the master plans, which were initially adopted 2003. Walk through of some of the input that we've received today, just trying to highlight some of the issues that have consistently come up, and then talk about next steps. It will be, as Cindy alluded to, a December 9th public outreach meeting scheduled to follow this one. Hopefully we will be able to encourage more participants to attend. And then we're going to talk about preference for additional public input. These virtual meetings work for some people and not so well for others. So then for Master Plan 101, Joe, I think, is probably familiar with all of this, so I'll be very brief. But the county was mandated by state statute in 2002 to adopt master plans. Basically, the plans are intended to address fundamental land use policy issues, zoning, transportation, recreation, and then new in 2021, the state mandated that these plans also address access to alternative energy sources, population growth, and housing. So those are new to the conversation, at least as far as the state is concerned. Some more background, the East of Aspen, Independence, and Castle Creek master plans were adopted initially in 2003. And we recognize that things have changed since then. A lot has changed. And we want to make sure that the plans still identify and address issues that have become relevant since then, things like climate change, which, while we should have been addressing it in 2003, we really weren't. And mountain migration. We've had a lot of people migrating to the area in the last year or two during the pandemic. And so things have changed. To date, we've completed existing conditions reports for both of these planning areas. They basically provide baseline data on things like road capacity, where we are in terms of growth, so that we can understand where we are in terms of capacity and to identify issues and needs. We also master plan updates, and the master plans really function to make recommendations for policy and regulatory changes as necessary to address community priorities as they change and as they are identified by stakeholders, including you. And so these existing conditions reports and master plan updates, the drafts, can be found at this link, and we're happy to forward that to you if you'd like, if you don't want to try to grab that link off the screen right now. So then again, in terms of Master Plan 101, quick overview of process. Public input is critical at every stage of this process, starting now and throughout all of the stages. And so again, by state statute, the Planning and Zoning Commission is responsible for master plan review and adoption. We will have an informal review at a joint P&Z and board work session in January. It's currently scheduled for January 25th. And then that will be followed by a scheduled public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission for adoption, tentatively scheduled in February, depending on how much input we get, how many changes need to be made. So Cindy was going to go through tonight's meeting, and I'll let her do that. If are you functioning up and running, Cindy?
Hold on, I think so.
I can hear you.
Okay, hold on. Shoot, okay. Okay, I hope I'm on now. Thank you, guys. My internet went out and I was listening by phone, but here I am. And Ellen, unfortunately, I don't see the slides changing.
So you don't see the tonight's meeting purpose? Okay,
I see,
I
No.
can just,
I don't see, did you go through the agenda?
I did. So we're just on tonight's meeting purpose, but
Okay. I don't see that on my, on my screen. I only see east of Aspen. So, but I think I could talk about tonight's purpose and thank everybody for being here. Sorry, I was a little bit out of contact there, but tonight we really want to check in with you if you've had a chance to look at the
it looks like Cindy's internet is a little on the blink tonight. So why don't you just cut out again. So why don't I just cover this?
Okay.
The screen, tonight's meeting purpose, except for Cindy? Elizabeth?
No, the only thing that we can see is at the very beginning slide, east of Aspen, Independence Pass.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was wondering if you were looking through.
So it's not, so it's me. All right. Well, then Cindy, if you could just talk about tonight's meeting, I will go back and make sure that the slides are moving forward. Are you okay with that, Cindy? No. All right. Well,
I'm sorry, it says that my internet is unstable, so I'll do the best I can. But the purpose of tonight is hopefully that you guys have had a chance to look at the red line versions of the plan that, that we've put together, as well as the existing conditions reports for the area. And also, we hope to just give you a little bit of feedback on the information that we've received so far from people. There we are. Report back on the recommendations that we've heard to date from people and get additional input from you tonight, and then go on into the next steps. So thanks, Ellen.
okay. So, yeah, so now everyone can everyone see my screen now? Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to start with the basic fundamentals on the ground. The east of Aspen planning area.
Edgar, do you want to come see the map?
Can you see the map? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, right, this is a really huge planning area. It's about 112,000 acres. Most of it, 108,000 acres, are in public lands. But because it's so large, we have divided it into some neighborhood planning areas. And just to get everyone oriented, City of Aspen is up here in the upper left area. That's the municipal boundary. And then the Highway 82 travels through the map, the core of the map here. And then the Taggart's Lake West area is east of Aspen Caucus area, one and the same. We have Smuggler Hunter Creek in this quadrant. And then the Taggart's Lake East area is basically from the edge of the east of Aspen Caucus area all the way up to the top of the pass. And then on the western portion of the plan area is the Aspen Mountain Richmond Ridge portion, sub area. And that comes up to the western boundary of the plan area, which is the Richmond Ridge here along the edge. And so that's where this planning area lies. And then on the Castle Creek side, so if you look at the screen, the map on the right-hand side where my arrow is the east of Aspen planning area adjacent. This is the Richmond Ridge boundary line between the two areas. And then on the left, the colored area is the Castle Creek boundary, plan area boundary. And Castle Creek Road really runs along the valley floor here, along the middle, the gut of the planning area. Again, City of Aspen is here in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. This area is also predominantly public lands with most of the private residential development is along the valley floor and then up along the ridge, the Richmond Ridge area here on the right. So I assume there are no questions about the planning area boundaries, but jump in if you do have questions. So to date, we've had several recommendations for modifications to the 2003 plans. We've had recommendations from the public, and we've also made changes as staff just based on what we've been experiencing in the land use review and process over the years. Modifications basically address bigger picture issues like zoning. Growth management direction has changed somewhat. Affordable housing is always an issue that we are trying to address. There's some recommendations to change some aspects of our scenic regulations. Recreational use in both these planning areas has significantly increased, particularly in the last couple of years. And we've gotten a lot of feedback on how we should be addressing that change and increase in use. And then 2 new sections in all of the master plan updates that we've been working on include climate change section and a resiliency section. Those 2 have clearly become very relevant. So we've addressed them, at least taken a crack at addressing them, and are looking for more input from you all on both of those issues. Also, since I'll let Cindy jump in here. Yeah, there's a collaborative plan that took place, and Cindy's going to cover that planning up.
Yeah, just to kind of remind many of you who were there, I think in 2015, John Wilcox let us use the Adventure Center up in Ashcroft, and we took a look at recreation specifically in the Upper Castle Creek area, and as it related to that whole area in Upper Castle Creek and along the Richmond Ridge area. So we thought we should look at that, and that is also on our website, and we're asking people to take a good hard look at the summary from back in 2015. It was really well done, I think, and it's easy to respond to. Joe Wells has already done a great job of responding to it, and I think got a lot of other people to jump in and make comments from the Castle Creek side. So please, if you haven't had a chance, take a look at that summary, and we're going to just kind of work off of that for an update on recreation in the plan.
Great. So thank you, Cindy. So yeah, what we have found in working on both the East of Aspen and Castle Creek planning updates is that they both share, as I said, that they both share the Richmond Ridge as a boundary that splits the 2 areas. Again, so on the east side of the ridge is East of Aspen, on the west side of the ridge is Castle Creek. And it became readily apparent that there are a lot of common issues that both sides share, and they mostly revolve around recreational use, both informal and commercial recreational use. The fact that the Aspen ski area boundary exists here. We've got Ashcroft at the top end of Castle Creek, Ashcroft ski area, sorry. And so a lot of common issues around recreation and then access as well, because a lot of the recreational uses on the east side of the ridge are accessed from roads on the west side of the ridge, including Little Annie, Midnight Mine, Express Creek, etc. So we recognize that it really made sense to look at these plans concurrently to make sure that we are really comprehensively addressing those common issues. Again, since 2003, looking at some of the things that have changed, really in terms of zoning, very little change since 2003. The overarching themes haven't changed. They still revolve around preserving rural residential character, reflecting the natural scenic character, undeveloped public lands and resource conservation uses that currently exist, continuing to allow for backcountry residential and dispersed recreational uses that exist, and limiting existing commercial recreational uses, and really limiting commercial uses in general. A few more changes, and then we're going to let you all jump in. But as I said earlier, 2 new sections address climate change as the first that I'll start with. Climate change is something that our Board of County Commissioners has really embraced in the last year, really, and even before that, but really focused on in the last year. And so the plans do support and implement direction and goals established in the Pickens County Climate Emergency Resolution adopted by the Board of County Commissioners and in climate action plans adopted by Pickens County. And so we have been charged with actively addressing the threats presented by climate change, which is a good thing. It's certainly relevant and necessary. Specifically, the board has directed us to reduce annual greenhouse gas emissions by 90% from 2020 levels by 2050. At the same time, preserving community character and equitably distributing policy impacts among those of different socioeconomic and racial backgrounds. Elizabeth probably has a lot to add to this if her son was just in Glasgow, but these are at least our where we're a good place to start from. I'm sure there's a lot of room for improvement here, but we've also embraced the concept of net zero energy use, encouraging installation of renewable energy technologies, looking at the landfill, diverting construction and demolition waste and debris to address greenhouse gas emissions and other issues, and then continually supporting and developing regional mass transit efforts and transportation solutions. So all of this really critically important. On the resiliency side, there's a lot relating to resiliency in these plans. I've just touched on a few of the items that are identified, including looking at our water supply, making sure that it is actively promoted, protected. Water sources are critical in all planning areas. Also developing resilient infrastructure to address the changes we're dealing with in climate, and also making sure that our economy is resilient. Things are changing, snow levels are changing, and we may want to be really rethinking what drives our economy moving forward. Cindy's going to talk that, so that is a very quick overview of some of the issues that we have addressed that have changed since 2003. There are a lot of other specifics, and we'd love to talk to you about any that you may have in mind. But Cindy is going to cover this slide on process and public input, and then I think we're going to shift it over to you.
Thanks, Ellen. Right, as Ellen said earlier, we're looking for your public input, and then we schedule, or we've already scheduled tentatively, meetings with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the board to review the drafts of the plans. We just needed to get on their agendas because they are pretty busy with things. So we have put together a couple target dates, but if public input needs to go further, we will respect that, obviously, and continue on. Then scheduling a formal notice public hearing before the P&Z to finally adopt the plan. As Ellen said, state law enables our planning and zoning commissions to be the ones who adopt the plans. But what we wanted to ask you tonight as part of the process is, how is it best to work with you? Is this virtual format going to be okay? Hopefully without so many bugs, but is the virtual format okay for you? Is there an interest in getting together with some smaller groups on some of the topic areas perhaps, or working in a different way? So we're open to any of that and would love to hear from you on that as we move forward. So the rest of tonight, we just hope to open it up to you. We don't expect that you've been able to read through all of the red line documents, the existing conditions report or the plan or the 2015 recreation summary. But if you've had a chance to look at any of those, we'd love your feedback, or just any feedback you have about your planning area and how things have changed, or how you think we might address some of those common area issues between the two planning areas. And then we can get into, so we can get into substance, or we can get into process, whatever works for you guys. So Ellen, I'm happy to just open it up. How about you?
Yeah, and if I need to pull up a slide, if you have a specific question or input, I'm happy to do that. But this is really about you from here on out.
I have a
Anytime.
quick question.
Okay, yeah.
What instigates the change in a master plan, or how often are they looked at, and what dictates it?
Yeah. Well, the plan usually says how long it's supposed to be good for, based on what the neighborhoods thought at the time. But definitely, you know, we should be hitting those at least every 10 years. We're pretty far behind on a lot of our master plan updates, and trying to update those. I think so far this year, we've done about 4 or 5, but we're trying to get more of those, you know, finished, so that we're, you know, things change. As we know, this year, a lot more people have moved here. So as Ellen said, that whole mountain migration, new folks, new ideas, and, you know, a lot more population to look at relative to some of the issues. So, yeah. And some of the things that, just to maybe get us started in thinking about our, you know, comments that you might have, I've been thinking about, like, what motivates you to live in your planning area? What is it about your planning area that is important to you? And what is it in your planning area that you'd like to address that may be changing in a way that you're concerned about? And then also, for those of you who may not live in the planning area, who have come here, but who recreate in the planning area, you know, what is it that motivates you to recreate in those planning areas? These two areas are really interesting because the majority of the lands are federal lands. They're not private. In Castle Creek, we only have 9% of the land that's private. You know, under 10% of the land that's private. And I don't know what that percentage is in the east of Aspen area, but I would say it's probably that or less, given the magnitude of Independence Pass and, you know, all of the national forest lands within that planning area. So,
Well, I'll look at I want to go through it. And I mean, we're having our Mountain Valley board meeting in a week or two, and it might be interesting, you know.
yeah.
You guys too.
And we're happy to come to any meetings that you'd like us to. So if you have board meetings or caucus meetings or, you know, anything like that, we're happy to be there just as a resource, Kim. Like, we don't have to be a big part of the presentation, but if anybody has questions, we could be there.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge some comments from, you know, pretty extensive comments from Jill Wells and from Elizabeth, I think, has weighed in. So we do understand that, on the recreation side, that there are a lot of impacts associated with recreation in these areas, as Cindy said, because so much public land exists here. And so we have posted all the public comments we've received on our webpage, and we have registered them. We understand that on Castle Creek Road is inundated with traffic, and there have been some great recommendations for how to address cyclists and e-bikes and motorized use. And so we do have some great comments already, but this is another opportunity, and we haven't lost those comments. But this is an opportunity to jump in and add more if you have them.
Ellen and Cindy, I have a question about protection of wildlife corridors, migratory routes, and the inclusion of that in the plan.
I don't know that I don't remember that there are any specific recommendations on either side to protect migratory routes. We have the map. I believe we have, I know we have wildlife mapping as part of the existing conditions reports. I don't remember if migration routes are on. I know we have, winter habitat and critical habitat. I think we have migration routes identified, but I'm not certain. But if that's something we should address, good to know, because I don't think we do.
Well, you were mentioning trying to reduce commercial use in the area. I think that there's a bit of a conflict between the commercial use and the attempts to have a nature preserve and giving protected areas. And we do have quite a lot of wildlife in this region. So that they're not able to attend the Zoom meeting, but I just thought I would. Tonight we saw fox, beaver. We regularly have elk and moose, and it's bear. So it is a consideration of how they can continue to interface with some of the growth in population that we're seeing.
I love that comment, Elizabeth, because we've been hearing more and more about that, not only just locally, but on our nationwide scale. How are we doing with that? And I know that Tom Cardamone and his group have been commissioned with looking at some of that more specifically for the Valley. So I'm gonna ask that. I'm not going to ask, I can do it. I can look into that and bring that back. That's a great comment. If we can do some sort of an overlay with that data so that we start to pay more attention to that. Thank you.
Oh, that would be great to have Tom's group involved. And then Charlie Hopton has also tracked the great blue heron for years and years. So it would be good to include him as well.
Yep, thanks.
So not migratory routes, but wildlife habitat and use in general, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. How about that, getting a little bit more into, because I think most of you that are on live in your planning area. There's not a lot of people here that are just recreationalists coming to the area. So to grab your attention, like, what is it that motivated you to move there? And are you still motivated to live there for those reasons? Or what is it that you're that you might have concerns about that you'd like to have addressed in a master plan?
Well, I think we're attracted to the natural beauty of the area, and it's fabulous to be able to bicycle into town, and to, we're just on the edge of the wilderness. And so we really appreciate that, and respect that. And yeah, I guess we've been here for around 40 years. So I think we're staying as long as we can.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thanks. Have there been concerns about that edge of the wilderness kind of boundary and anything that you think a master plan can address other than what you just said about the wildlife migratory system in general, and just the respect for that boundary?
Well, I think minimum stream flows will be something that we'll have to be quite aware of, because of the diversions and because of water being such a precious resource. So part of that wildlife study could be regarding what are the minimum stream flows for the trout, for all the animals that are in the riparian habitat. Probably Mark Bull and Rebecca Weiss could speak to the avian population regarding that. So that would be another concern.
Right. Good idea.
Cindy, unless you want to on that, I have a totally unrelated question. Are you good going there? We have been hearing, and because we've got you, and it's so great to have you weigh in on these concepts. We've heard from a lot of caucus areas about the short-term rental phenomenon that we've experienced, particularly in the last couple of years. And we have a realtor on the call, which is great, or on the meeting, and others, and just wondering if, I don't think I have received recently from the folks in these two planning areas much in the way of feedback on the short-term rental use that has really escalated a lot in the past couple of years. Does anyone want to weigh in on that, or is that just something that it just is and we let it be?
Well, we deal with it. We talk about it all the time, and it shifts, and different things come up. I guess best thing, I mean, really, we're going to have a meeting in about a week or two, and I want to hear about a lot of different updates on stuff like that. But we hear all the city stuff way more than the county, how it affects those of us in the county, what their rules and regulations are and where it's coming to. So we just keep watching it. But yeah, it's a problem. I mean, got a lot of short-term rentals now going on in our neighborhood.
Kim, how is it a problem for your neighborhood? I mean, what are the types of things that you find as problems?
The problems we have is traffic and speeding and people who don't really know what to do with their trash, because owners haven't instructed them or enforced it. Parking, during early COVID, it was a big deal about the buses being so full, which I don't really think that's a problem, but yeah, and that's very periodic, if people have a lot of people in the house. But no, it's mainly just busyness and just not respecting the rules of the road.
Okay.
And, noise, obviously, but I don't even think we get that much complaints about that. It's mainly just, we've got these streets that are crazy and people go down them 40, 50 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour zone. And so it's hard.
Yeah.
A lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen, I don't know if you have my letter, but I wrote a letter on this subject a couple of months ago. if not longer.
Yeah, you know what? I need to post that letter. Thanks for the reminder, Joe.
It's a subject that I think is less appropriate the further you get away from the urban core. Obviously, this discussion of late about rural and remote cabins being run as lodges was a little shocking to me. So, yeah, it's a subject that I think needs some attention. I get mailings probably every other week from some company who wants to manage my home as a short-term rental. So it's a totally different beast than as it was described by Greg at a commissioner meeting, in which they would occasionally take on a renter in a room. It's just a totally different scale of operation now than it was 20 years ago. So it's an area of concern to me. Getting at the direction issue, I would like to notify our members that there's an effort, a master planning effort underway, and see who's really interested in participating. I've had a half a dozen people express interest in being more involved, but we need to get a group together to start going through this.
Mhm.
Hopefully not just a group of one.
Yeah, Joe, no, Ellen and I are happy to help facilitate that group. Once we figure out who they are, we are happy to have small meetings, whatever it takes. So
Do you guys get into, I mean, is there language about rentals and restrictions in the master plan? I obviously haven't read it. So.
no, we left it blank because we wanted to hear what people had to say. And since it's kind of a hot new topic, we didn't fill anything in there.
Yeah.
The commissioners are working on regulations right now, and they've had several meetings, several work session meetings, where they would love to hear from the public on what you think about short-term rentals. Right now, they're leaning in the direction of creating regulations that might have obviously a licensing process in the county like they do in the city, but also potentially having it limited to those people who are full-time primary residences here. And then and in some communities, they haven't talked about this yet, but in some communities, then that's further limited to say how many weeks or months a year you can rent. And the theory behind that is that the people who are primary full-time residents understand their neighborhoods and would then ensure that, things are taken care of better than some speculative, situation. I just know, like, for example, down the street from me, there's a home that's been purchased, and that none of the owners are primary residents, and it's managed, I think, out of Vail, from what my neighbor told me. And so,
Talking about the Picasa thing?
yeah, so it's really hard to have that, managed properly. And so one of the thoughts that the Board of County Commissioners is thinking about is that if it is a primary residence, then in fact, the owners are more tied into the neighborhood and would be more conscientious about, the neighborhood, things like the trash and the traffic and the parking and all those things and ensure that those things were taken care of. That's happened in a couple of communities. And Ellen and I have been talking a lot with Summit County, who the person who manages their short-term rental program is part of a group that I think is across the nation that talks about short-term rentals and, from the kind of administration side of it. And they all have wished that they had started off with that provision and then gotten more lenient if they could have, rather than, opening the doors really wide first, because it's created other issues like, in some areas taken away places that were affordable for, de facto employee housing and that kind of thing. So that's all, information that the Board of County Commissioners is going to have to work on and decide, but that's where they are right now. So.
And are any other thoughts on that? Love to hear them. If not, I've got another question for you. Anybody on that? So the climate change section of the plan is new, as I said, in all of our master plans. And it would be really helpful to hear from all of you, any of the residents in the area, about what kinds of incentives need to be out there to encourage people to take action on an individual basis to address climate change. What are there things that you wish were out there to help you address climate change, assuming that you, hello dog, assuming that you think this is something that needs to be addressed?
So Ellen, have you identified sort of the biggest factors, Highway 82 and traffic? And I've always thought we should reach out to POMA and have a solution from POMA for getting people up and down the valley.
Actually, and Cindy will probably want to jump in here, but in the analysis data that we've seen to date, actually buildings, right? And in our case, most of the buildings are residential buildings, are the greatest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And transportation is second in terms of contributions. But the buildings are by far the greatest contributors. So while we do need to address transportation components of that, including, that's a great idea to look at 82 and other methods of transporting people. We also really need to look at buildings.
And something else I'll tell you, Elizabeth, about that building stuff. We are doing some in-depth greenhouse gas studies that should be out pretty soon. And that'll give us a better sense of where we are with that, how transportation ranks versus buildings rank. But we are also looking at the actual buildings relative to construction and long-term management or maintenance of those buildings. So we'll have a lot more data to share with everybody probably in the beginning of 2022.
So I would imagine heating is a huge issue. So what kind of heating solutions are you proposing for people to adopt?
Well, we don't have a ton of proposals out there, but what we do have is a new building code that's pretty restrictive. It has, you look at a home energy rating system, HERS is what it's called, rating system for energy. And it also has us looking at requirements for greater energy sources being renewable sources. And so the building code has really stepped game for new construction. Can't go backwards, but if somebody does come in and they want to do a remodel on their home that's greater than 1,000 square feet, then the whole structure clicks into the new upgraded building permit requirements. So we're getting there, and the goal is by 2030 to make all the new buildings net zero.
Wow, terrific.
Yeah,
Great.
it's good stuff. Yeah.
It's just something that everybody, I think, has to participate in as individuals to really move us forward towards a real response to climate action. So just thought I'd ponder it. We do address both draft plan updates. So maybe take a look at those sections, and if there's anything that resonates or just doesn't make sense, let us know,
Okay.
right? Okay. And then one more, Cindy, unless you want to jump in. One more blank spot that we have in the plan right now relates to transferable development rights. In these two planning areas, I don't know how big of an issue the transferable development rights are, other than the fact that there's a rural remote zoning in both of these planning areas, and transferable development rights or development rights from that zone district to receiving sites in other portions of the county. I don't know if there are any issues for you all in terms of how those transferred development rights impact neighborhoods when they land on sites outside of the rural remote area, or if there are any issues relating to transferable development rights in general. If it's a program that's working really well as is, or if we should be looking at some potential changes. And I'm happy to jump in if people say, what are
Well, I think that, initially the concept is good to try to keep cities within cities, and so, but it's applied a little differently here, with people just wanting. It's very funny you're bringing it up on the heels of the energy concerns, and then how do you heat a home? So with the transfer of density rights, if you get one, then you can heat, what is it now, an 8,500 square foot home. And then with two, you can have a 15,000 square foot home, I believe. So that's a lot of heating. So I don't think that was really a part of the original concept.
I think you're right. Yeah.
GDRs.
I think that the energy consumption use should be considered as part of that discussion on transferable development rights and how they're used. Yes, is that?
Yeah, I think that, and in connection with core, because then a lot of those really mega homes also have heated driveways and other energy concerns. So it's sort of an unfortunate aspect of something that was meant to solve a problem.
Well, I want to chime in because I am a supporter of the TDR program, because it prevents cabins from being scattered all over Little Annie. So I'm a supporter of the program, supporter of energy conservation, and would like to see the energy conservation solve the problem of allowing people to add square footage in the developed areas, as opposed to saying you can't have the additional square footage because of the other issues. Going back on the energy issue, by the way, Obviously, those of us who are fortunate enough to live in the Castle Creek Valley are solar deprived. I think we have 2 hours of sunlight, direct sunlight on December 21st. I would still like to have the opportunity to participate in some off-site solar facility. So I'll just chime in again on that issue, since I don't think my site is absolutely the best site to be used for solar. I'd prefer to have a better alternative. So
Would you say that you're saying a recommendation from the Castle Creek side might be amend the building codes to allow the opportunity to buy into large scale solar offsite to
Yep.
offset? Okay. That's something that we can, Ellen, just, put in as a potential action item.
So, and another option is geothermal, and you did have some language in the recommendations of not large scale geothermal, but what are you thinking is an appropriate size for geothermal heating?
I don't think that we have an appropriate size picked out. I think it's just so location specific. That if there are pockets of geothermal, just how much can it really provide? I know in the Crystal, they have more pockets of geothermal, that might be underutilized for heating some areas within neighborhoods, but I don't know that the rest of the community has really been explored as well on geothermal.
I think the whole new city hall is heated with geothermal. And it's not because they're on a hot springs area or something.
Yeah.
It's just the differential, but they do.
Oh,
have-
I see. Yeah. I know what you mean. It's a split system, taking the ambient temperature and not having to heat up from 0, but heating up from whatever the ground level temperature is. That's more of what I think. I think that technology is really taking off here in the mountains, and CORE is helping with that, promote that. It's called split system, where you do take that geothermal aspect of a site. Right.
Might be an option for areas that have less sunlight.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. Trevor, I see you there. Do you have things to add from up in the upper part of Castle Creek?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. I have invited Veronica Reardon and Olivia Niosi here, both with a couple of years time spent up in the Ashcroft area with me, and both who have spent the last couple of years also highly engaged with the visiting public, both as rangers for Pickens County Open Space and Trails, and as wilderness rangers for White River. Veronica has been doing that for the last couple of years, and both former ACES naturalists. So both of them are here with me as well. And just because I think that they've both had a really keen interest on watching the interface of Ashcroft at work, having worked with the businesses up there and and ACES, the nonprofit, and interacted with the ghost town and working out of the ski touring center and looking out the window all the time up there through the pandemic, et cetera. So they're both here as well and may chime in, but I guess I'm learning that the public process for this has already been in the process for a couple of meetings. And I'm kind of piggybacking back on to where I was involved in the recreational meeting up at the Ashcroft Adventure Center there, and wondering if there'd be a need to create a subgroup for that area that could kind of drill down and dive in up there, as it's an important hub for all of, both of these plans, and with a lot of user groups, a lot of interaction, a lot of interface happening up there in a small area with a lot of seasonal fluctuation as well. And so it seems to me as though there might be a good opportunity there to further pull, using this process as a catalyst to pull together some more active individuals to try and give some input. And so I'm interested in hearing, I could start talking about e-bikers and parking and all kinds of things, but it would be boring except for that subgroup, so anyway, general.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's really great. And thank you to Olivia and Veronica for being part of it as well. Your input is so important, and I really appreciate you guys bringing your expertise to the table on this. I think that's an awesome kind of subgroup recommendation, Trevor, that we could follow up with you on that if you want to get together and have a specific meeting on that. I think though that it's not as boring as you think to everybody. I know when I read through Joe Wells's comments, and I read through several people from Castle Creek, Simon Priniker, is that how I say it? And then let's see, I think it was Tom Barron. We got several comments just in writing and emails from people. Everyone was very concerned about recreation and about that interface in the planning areas. So you might have more people than you think interested in that. And then I just also want to tell the group that doesn't know this, that we have a Upper Castle Creek collaborative that we get together with. We try to get together with a couple times a year. And the next meeting of that is December the 1st. And Trevor, I'm not sure if it was you or if it was Chris Lane from ACES who had participated in that in the past, but we have everybody right there happy to help, I think, in this endeavor. So we've got the Forest Service, the Historical Society, John Wilcox, ACES. So that's happening here soon too. We might be able to piggyback off of that rather than create a whole new group. I know Joe Wells also comes to that group. So Trevor, if we haven't gotten you a specific invitation, we will to that for December 1st coming up.
And we have received a lot of comments about e-bikes and traffic and regular bicycles. And so not to worry, you're not the Lone Ranger on that one. And all of the comments that we have received, can you see my screen again? Do you see a link up on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so all of the comments we've received, you'll find at this web page. This is actually just the East of Aspen Independence Master Plan link, but you'll also find the Castle Creek Master Plan link there as well. And both under both of those plan links, public comments have been posted. I may have missed a few, Joe's letter on short-term rentals I need to add, but, and there are a few others perhaps, but yeah, if you want to see what other people have said, at least recently, you'll find them in those public comments. And then some of them have already been incorporated in the draft master. So, yeah, so have a look when you get a chance.
Ellen, I am interested to know how, what you're thinking about e-bikes and how to interface them. Up in our section of Highway 82, it's very narrow and windy. And I reached out to CDOT years ago. The bike path is fabulous. And it gets a lot of use by mountain bikers but a lot of pedestrians, a huge number of pedestrians, which is terrific. But it just seems like it would be safe to have some shoulders along for e-bikes and a bike lane that would at least go to difficult, if not beyond.
Elizabeth, could I ask you, do you think that the east of Aspen Trail could ever or should ever be widened and paved?
Well, I don't think that the e-bikes and the pedestrians are, I mean, it's already, even with the mountain bikes and the pedestrians, it is kind of surprising to groups of people if you come along in your bicycle. But it's really great to be separated from the car traffic on a bike. So I don't think sure, widening the existing trail would help pedestrian bicycle interface, but I think the e-bikes are sort of a hybrid between the auto and the bicycle. So, and even for all of the road riders, that like to cycle up there, it would be nice to have a shoulder. They have sort of their evening circuit that they do. And so, we try to ride our bikes as much as possible, but then I'm on both sides of it. When I'm driving, I can be really surprised to come around the corner and happen upon a group of cyclists, or I've been knocked with the rear view mirrors to the side of the road by the RVs. So it just seems like if we could work with CDOT, they've explained to me that the shoulders are soft and it's a lot more involved than one might think too. But even for snow plowing in the winter, I think having it, we like that it's 2 lanes. We don't want to widen very much, but just a safe amount of shoulder for e-bikes, I think would be great.
Thanks. We'll pursue that with probably with our Road and Bridge and CDOT and their relationship.
And that's we've received a lot of feedback on the Castle Creek side relating to e-bikes and bikes, but not so much on the east of Aspen side. So that's great. Great feedback. Thanks. I don't think that's been addressed on the east of Aspen side in the draft plan as a recommendation yet. So we'll add it.
Great, thank you.
Trevor, I kind of feel like I cut you off. Did I cut you off? Maybe you have to take a break.
I'm here just making dinner.
Oh, okay. I kind of felt like.
No, all is good.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's about 6:45 now, and I thought maybe I could take a shot, Ellen, if it's okay with you, at summarizing some of the things we heard here today. And first of all, thanks. What a great friendly group to see and work with. So thanks for being here. And our intention is that on December the 9th, that we will continue this conversation. So hopefully you can be with us again, and we'll continue on. And it's our intention to add the comments that we've heard here tonight to our red line version of the plan. And hopefully in the meantime, if you guys have a chance to look at the red line version, to look at the 2015 summary of the recreation data, any of that, make comments. And like we say, make an appointment, come in, sit down with us. We'll talk to you one-on-one, or we'll come to Kim, any HOA meetings or anybody else, groups, small groups that you might have, or Trevor, we can look at, promoting some kind of a subgroup on the upper Castle Creek recreation issues. But kind of what I heard on a couple direct action items is Ellen and I are going to look at the migratory routes and of wildlife and how we can weave that into the plan. We're also going to, Joe, look into more public notice of who may want to get specific public notice about the master plans, and try to have more people involved, and hopefully create more of a group out of the Castle Creek group that's ongoing. We want to look at Highway 82 in a couple different ways. We want to look at, just the overall question of Valley transportation in general. I'm not sure how far we'll make it in terms of the plan when we're looking at, Puma kind of solutions, but we'll, definitely keep all that in mind, but very specifically look at Highway 82, rather to look at more shoulder alternatives for the e-bikes and the kind of a safety zone for e-bikes and road bikes that don't use the existing east of Aspen Trail, and that safety, but not looking at widening a 2-lane road. So those are kind of the actions that I wrote down. And then potentially just more input from you guys when you're thinking about the whole, specifically, Kim, the short-term rental issues, and getting back to the board on that with their upcoming regulation reviews in their work sessions. So is that kind of what we heard?
I think we missed Joe Wells's suggestion about amending the building code to allow the opportunity for residents of Castle Creek to buy into off-site solar available.
Okay, good. And then also the idea that the split system, as Elizabeth was saying, maybe more as a requirement. I think a lot of people who can use it are starting to use it because it's a way to meet their energy code requirements, but we can look at that a little bit more. And it's good to have the support from a master plan. So we can look at that as a support element in the plan. Anything we missed that anybody wants to bring up before we say goodnight and everybody can make our dinners?
Well, it's terrific that you're promoting all of the energy saving devices that we can do on a residential level. So any public outreach on that, I really encourage working with CORE and letting us know what more we can do.
Great, sure.
Thank you all. The dog is ready for dinners and he's letting me know. So I appreciate it's a small group, but super interesting and informative and helpful. So I really appreciate you taking the time because I know how busy everybody is.
Yeah, thanks so much. And please call us, come back to the next meeting if you can, and we'll go from there. So Courtney, thanks for being here. Okay, Thank you. Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. See you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.